But the only prescription Dr. Keating makes is that you should buy your kid a telescope. And actually, the reason I said this is the reason I'm probably sitting here with you is because I became a scientist thanks to getting a telescope at about age 12. And you can actually see something. I know you've been to like the Keck observatories, Mauna Kea, and you've seen the night sky from there, and that is wonderful. But every single thing that Galileo saw with his 20-power telescope, which is not that much.
Not much at all.
You can get one of those, on my website. No, I'm just kidding.
But that was a big improvement.
That was a huge improvement. Because now you could see there were craters on the moon. Now you could see there were mountains on the moon. The moon wasn't this perfect crystalline sphere that the Bible and the ancients had talked about. It had flaws, imperfections. It looked like it had oceans. That's why they're called mare seas, the sea of tranquility.
You know what really bummed me out?
What was that?
When Samsung, when they got exposed for their digital zoom for the moon. That bummed me out. I thought I was taking a real picture of the moon.
That's right.
I was like, this is amazing.
There's
Look what my phone can do.
There's the flag.
It looks so clear. Like, how do they do that? And then someone took a photo of a blurry photo of a moon on a screen, and it did it to that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it cleared up the image.
It ruined the illusion.
Using fuckery.
They should not do that. Yeah.
No, they should not do that.
So yeah, when Galileo boosted the magnification from just a few times, that was sufficient. With just a 2-power thing like a spyglass, like a toy thing, you really can't see craters on the moon. You can't see that there's other like mountains and so forth. But Galileo really, because of the telescope, invented the scientific method, of hypothesization, of observation, collecting data, refining things. And then a lot of people forget the scientific method is predicated a lot of times on serendipity. Like just, holy crap, something happens. He didn't expect to see mountain. He wasn't saying, my hypothesis is that it formed from the same planetary system as the Earth. He just saw it. Holy crap.
And what was the very best telescope that he created as he made them better?
It only went up to about 20 times because the ability to grind glass was always the limiting factor. He understood the mathematics of it, which was also part like how is what's called the lens equation. How does that work? How does light get refracted and focused, and in so doing bend and magnify light? And so he understood it mathematically and could prove it. But he also did something really cool, which people don't appreciate. The lens in this telescope, I don't know, should I show it? Jamie, tell me if it's okay. The lens in the telescope is actually bigger than this brass piece that surrounds it, okay? And that owes to Galileo's activity. So what Galileo realized is sometimes you don't want to use everything that you have. Sometimes you want to do what's called stopping down. So you've heard aperture stops in photography. So when you stop down something, it does something really important. It reduces what are called systematic effects, aberrations, unwanted effects. So instead of maximizing, say, I got the biggest telescope, which is what now astronomers fight about, my telescope's bigger than yours. He said, no, you want to stop it down, and that will actually improve the quality. And you can actually see this with your own fingers. So take your fingers out, Joe. Okay. Look at some light source. Look at these stars above us.
Okay.
Make a tiny little triangle with your fingers, with your 2 fingers and your thumb.
Okay.
And then go around like one of the stars up there, and you can actually see it. Pinch it down to almost a point, and you can almost see that it will magnify a tiny, tiny bit. And do you get that effect? It's very subtle. But you're actually reducing some of the rays outside of your peripheral vision, essentially, that would otherwise come in if you have any like cataracts or anything like that. So what Galileo said is, no, don't use everything you have. Actually stop it down, make it smaller, make it seem less efficient, but it actually improved the quality, not the quantity, tremendously.
And when did they first start getting them to the point where you get telescopes like the Keck Observatory?
Yeah, that was so the Keck Observatory and the modern telescopes that we use today are not this type of telescope. This is called a refracting telescope. It uses lenses. The lenses change the speed of light inside of the medium, and that causes light waves at different angles to travel through different thicknesses and travel slower, and that causes them to converge or diverge as necessary. Nowadays, this telescope was invented by this guy Hans Lippershey, and perfected by Galileo. Isaac Newton came along almost 100 years later. Actually, he was born when Galileo died in 1642. And he invented not a refracting telescope, but a reflecting telescope of the type that the Keck telescopes you've seen are. These are telescopes that use mirrors to focus the light. They can be made much bigger. They can be made much more clearer because you don't need glass. You just need highly reflective media. And crucially, they can be supported behind them. So imagine if you made the biggest telescope of this kind. I'm kind of cheap, right? So I only brought a small phone I could put on. Actually, TSA almost confiscated this today. They were like, "What the hell is this thing?" Yeah,
they don't know what a telescope is.
They were like, "What is this? Are you going to use it as a weapon?" But they can only be made 30 times the diameter of this telescope, of this little tiny thing, the biggest refracting telescope.
So those ones that look like a garbage can in people's backyards.
Those are reflecting telescopes. The biggest refracting telescope is in Yerkes Observatory outside of Chicago or southern Wisconsin, and it is only 39 inches across. So what happens is, imagine you have a piece of glass. Over time, the glass will start to...
Is that it right there?
That's it. Perfect.
Oh, that's pretty dope. Powerful Jamie.
I heard Jamie's good. Wow, that is amazing.
He's the best.
So that's Yerkes.
So
that's puny compared to what you've seen in the Keck observatories, which are 10 meters across, 10 times that diameter. Interesting.
And what kind of power does that one have?
So you can get a telescope that has arbitrary power. The power is not the important thing. What's important is how clear and high quality the image can be. You can have, like the digital zoom, it could be, when they zoom in on your phone, say, if you zoom in, the image quality gets crappy, but even though it says, you've magnified it 300 times. So you can magnify arbitrarily just by choosing the right ratio of the curvature of the lens and the distance between these two lenses. But to get higher quality, that Yerkes Observatory lens started to sag, and it has other problems. Light acts, no matter what, gets distorted when it goes through a medium. It's actually getting distorted right now as it goes through the air. And you've seen this effect. Here's my second prop of the day. This is a prism. This is a prism made of just like ordinary glass, plexiglass, and that refracts light depending on its wavelength. So
this is like the kind of stuff a hippie girl would keep on her desk, right?
That's right. You can make it into a pendant for your wife. So that is changing the color. The speed of light is getting modified depending on its color as it goes through that medium. The lesson is glass affects the color of light's propagation speed, and it affects the quality of it. It's called chromatic aberration. So there's aberration because of the defects, like a crack in the glass. There's also a defect that different wavelengths or colors of light will focus at different points on your eye or on a detector. And that's bad because you want everything to come to a point focus. You want everything to be perfectly sharp and focused. And so these lenses, once they get above a certain size, they cannot be corrected for this effect.
I